Mother Mekong, the mystical flow that gave birth to the Funan civilization. Introduction. The river's story. Today is a day in the middle of August in southern Vietnam. Outside, the sky is heavy with clouds, and a tropical rain could pour down at any moment. The rivers, especially the branches of the Mekong Delta, are rising, the water churning a reddish-brown color from the silt. For us today, this is the flood season. But for the people who lived on this land 2,000 years ago, this was a sacred moment. This was the time when the great river god awakened. Before there were modern cities, before even the magnificent temples of Angkor, a great entity existed that silently shaped the destiny of an entire land. It was not an empire, nor was it a king. It was a river, a living being, a giant water dragon sleeping beneath the earth, the Mother Mekong. For thousands of years, this river carried more than just water and silt. It carried life. It carried merchant ships from distant lands. It carried new ideas, and it planted the seeds for the first great civilizations. This is not a story of geography, but an epic of how a river became a mother, how it nurtured and gave birth to one of the most ancient and mysterious kingdoms, the Kingdom of Funan. Let us listen to the story that the Mekong tells. Chapter 1. The Milk of Silt. The Pact of Survival with the Flood God. In the early period of the Funan civilization, from about the 1st to the 6th century CE, the Mekong Delta was not as it is today. It was a shallow gulf, a world of half water, half land, constantly being built up by billions of tons of silt that the Mekong carried from the distant Himalayas. Every year during the rainy season, the river would rage, its waters rising to submerge a vast region for months. For many, this would be a disaster, a curse. But for the first inhabitants, the Austroasiatic-speaking peoples who lived here before, they learned to live with this fierce god. They discovered a great secret of nature. The river's wrath was also its infinite mercy. Each time the floodwaters receded, they left behind a layer of fertile silt, a priceless gift from the gods. This new soil, built up over thousands of years, transformed the saltwater delta into one of the most fertile rice baskets in the world. They did not fight the water, they yielded to it. They built tall stilt houses to live above the flood, and when the water receded, they planted the first rice seeds in the still, moist mud. It was this milk of silt that nourished the wet rice civilization, creating a massive food surplus without requiring too much plowing effort. Food surplus did not just mean fullness, it meant liberated time. Time not spent on daily subsistence is time for creation. Artisans began to have time to craft more refined pottery. Goldsmiths began to create jewelry from gold and silver. And most importantly, a leadership and priestly class began to form. People whose task was to organize the community and perform rituals to communicate with natural forces, especially with the river god who gave them life. The Mekong gave the people of Funan their first and most important gift: abundance, the foundation of all civilizations. Chapter 2. The Great Trade Highway. When the world sought the 9 dragons' mouth. If the silt was the nutrient that nourished Funan's body, the Mekong's current was the bloodstream that connected the empire to the world. The Mother River and its dense network of tributaries and canals formed a perfect natural system of waterways. It was the highway of the ancient world. Imagine a day at the port city of Ok Ayo in the 3rd century. The air is thick with the scent of spices from the Maluku Islands, of incense and camphor from the inland forests. At the docks, Chinese junks with their distinctive sails are unloading bundles of silk and porcelain. Beside them are the dhows of Indian and Persian merchants carrying exquisite glassware, carnelian and agate beads. And weaving between them are countless smaller local dugout canoes, filled with rice, dried fish, and other products. How could an inland port city like Ok Ayo become such a bustling international center? The answer, once again, lies with the Mekong. Large international merchant ships did not need to dock on the coast. They could follow the large mouths of the Mekong, which the ancients called the 9 dragons, to sail deep into the interior. The river transformed the flooded delta into a great natural harbor, sheltering ships from the storms of the South China Sea. The river turned Funan from an agricultural kingdom into a global transshipment center. The Funanese people became skilled middlemen. They bought products from the Mediterranean and India, then sold them to Chinese merchants and vice versa. Wealth poured in from all directions. The proof is the gold coins of the Roman emperors Antoninus Pius and Marcus Aurelius, found right here on the soil of Anjiang. The Mekong River brought the entire world to Funan's doorstep. Chapter 3. Masterful Hydraulic Engineering. Rewriting the Dragon's Flow. Living with a river as mighty and erratic as the Mekong required extraordinary adaptation. The people of Funan did not just accept the river's laws. They sought to tame and reshape it. They became the master hydraulic engineers of the ancient world, with a legacy more impressive than the pyramids. Using modern archaeological methods like remote sensing and LiDAR, scientists have discovered a massive network of artificial canals, crisscrossing the Mekong Delta. The Funanese people dug canals tens of kilometers long, perfectly straight and incredibly precise, a task requiring a deep understanding of topography and hydrology. This canal system was a multifunctional marvel: irrigation and flood drainage. They helped bring fresh water from the How River to irrigate distant fields, while also helping to drain floodwaters out to sea more quickly during the rainy season, minimizing damage and expanding arable land. Transportation. These canals created shortcuts, helping boats travel between settlements and to the sea more quickly and safely, without having to follow the meandering natural rivers. They were artificial economic arteries connecting the entire kingdom. Urban formation. It was this canal system that allowed the Funanese to build large, permanent settlements and cities right in the middle of the flood-prone delta. Cities like Ok Ao were surrounded by canals that served as defensive moats, transportation systems, and drainage networks all at once. This hydraulic engineering was not just a technological achievement. It is proof of the existence of a highly organized state, capable of mobilizing and coordinating a massive labor force, possibly involving tens of thousands of people over many generations. It was the dialogue and the struggle with the Mekong River that forged the social and state structure of Funan. Chapter 4. The Spiritual River, the Marriage with the Serpent Goddess. For the Funanese people, the Mekong was not just a physical entity. It was a living spiritual force, a god who was both benevolent and terrifying. The dual power of the river, which both gives life with its silt and can destroy everything with its floods, was personified by them in the image of the mighty Naga serpent god. The Naga is the god of water, of rivers, of the rains. In myths, the Naga lives in a magnificent palace at the bottom of the Mekong River. Worshipping and making offerings to the Naga was one of the most important beliefs, a way to ask for the protection of the river god and to pray for favorable rains and winds. The importance of the Naga is most clearly shown in the founding legend of Funan itself, as recorded in Chinese annals. The story tells of the marriage between a Brahmin prince from a faraway land named Kaundinya, who used a magic bow to subdue the queen of the land, Soma. Soma is described as the queen of a native tribe, and in other mythological versions, she is a Naga princess, a Nagi. The marriage between Kaundinya and the serpent princess Soma, or Nagi, was not just the union of foreign and indigenous elements. It was a sacred pact between humanity and the river. Kaundinya represented civilization, order, and knowledge from India. The serpent goddess represented the primal power, the fertility of the native land. Their marriage gave birth to the Funan dynasty. The kings of Funan, as descendants of the Naga, thus gained the divine legitimacy to rule the land protected by the Mother River. Conclusion. The endless legacy of the Mother River. Looking back at the entire history from the 1st to the 6th century, it is clear that the Funan civilization and the Mekong River have an inseparable relationship. The river was not just a geographical feature, it was the central character in their story. The river was the mother, providing the milk of silt to nourish the wet rice agriculture. The river was the highway, turning the kingdom into an international commercial center. The river was the harsh teacher, forcing the Funanese to invent extraordinary hydraulic technologies to survive and thrive. And the river was also the supreme god, the center of their spiritual life and the source of their royal power. The Funan civilization was not just built beside the Mekong River, it was born from this very river. The heartbeat of the empire was the tidal rhythm of the mother river. And although the kingdom has faded into the past, the legacy of the first inhabitants of this delta, their story of harmonizing with and conquering nature, still flows forever with the endless Mekong.